definitely coming from the computer. What the hell? No way. Hello? Testing. Can you hear me now? Testing, 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 testing. Kidding me. What is going on? What is going on? Can you hear me now? Is there an echo? Now is there an echo? No way. I get here an hour in advance. Unbelievable.
Dilly dilly.
Is there an echo? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Now this isn't even working. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Having an echo in my ears, JohnFlaherty. Now there's somebody else here. I don't know what to do. What if I did this? What if I just turned the computer off? It's like a microphone coming from the computer that's picking up everything. So if we just did it with no computer, we could probably do it today. I wonder if the phone's gonna echo. I come here over an hour in advance to make sure everything works here, and it's not working. It's just not working. Nothing's gonna work. None of the sounds, nothing. Watch. 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 Hello?
Hello?
Hi, is this JohnFlaherty?
Yeah, good morning.
Oh, hi, John. I'm having major freaking issues here. There's an echo in here that I cannot figure out.
You want me to call you back?
Can you give me at least just 5 more minutes?
Yeah, whatever you need.
Thanks. I come in here over an hour in advance just to make sure everything works, and it's just not working today.
Not a problem.
All right.
Back in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Great. Great. Fucking wonderful. So if there's an echo coming from the computer when it's turned on, why is that? It's the delayed feed. What if I just did it like this? No headphones. Why does this have to happen on a day where I have 2 guests calling in live? I just don't understand. That I'll never understand. 16 minutes trying to figure this out. Somehow this is being recorded from this computer, and I don't know how. People come in here, they touch everything, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. How about now? How about now? Did that work? Nope. There's the echo. All right, so we're gonna be doing no computer today. Wow, I uploaded and got ready. You can probably see it. I got 16 freaking tabs open that I need. So hopefully this is recording in there, which I think it is, and we're just gonna have to go. We're just gonna have to do it Without a computer? How do you do a radio show without a computer? I'll never know. We're about to find out. There's not one more thing I can figure out how to do or what to do. This is unprecedented. That's for sure. And I will personally murder whoever did this. Yeah, like actually though. All right. All right, this is going to be some major editing later. That's for sure. All right, I guess we'll get started. So the white smoke is billowing out of the chimney at the cathedral in the Bronx, New York. The Yankees have selected a manager. There were 6 final candidates, 6 interviewees. The top three were Aaron Boone, ESPN analyst and former Yankee. He interviewed on November 17, 2017. Hensley Mullins, number 2. He was another top 3 finalist. Giants bench coach and former Yankee. He interviewed on November 16, 2017. And Carlos Beltran, he retired this year after winning the World Series with the Houston Astros, and he interviewed on November 28, 2017. A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, was a rumor that J-Lo exacerbated it, and she said, quote, on Twitter, she tweeted it, "It couldn't be clearer. Hashtag A-Rod for Yankees manager, at A-Rod, at Yankees, at MLB." It got almost 3,000 likes and over 1,000 retweets. Then Brian Cashman, on A-Rod's managerial position, came out and said, quote, "He never expressed interest in any way, shape, or form in it. I engaged him, but I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think he had any interest in that position," end quote, which I don't believe, actually, because if J-Lo was tweeting it, there had to have been a conversation there at home. Obviously, they're dating. There had to have been a conversation if she's tweeting that. So that I don't buy from you, Brian Cashman. And right now, we have JohnFlaherty ringing in. He is a Yes Network analyst, and he's a Yes Network analyst, broadcaster, and a former New York Yankees catcher. John, it's been a crazy morning so far. Thanks for joining us, or joining me, I should say. It's just me here. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule. So I was just preferencing, I don't know if you heard, that there were 6 guys. The top 3 were Boone, Mullins, and Beltran. But before we get to that, I think the first question that I have to ask, there are many people lobbying for you to be the next manager of the Yankees, including Boomer Esiason on the WFAN morning show. There are rumors flying. Was there ever a conversation between you and Brian Cashman about the job?
Well, technically I would say no. There was no conversation between Brian and myself. There was a conversation between Brian and my agent. And, to be quite honest with you, when the job opened up and Brian was talking about that you didn't really need to have a coach or a manager and my agent, and I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to try to reach out and let them know that I'm interested, and if they were interested as well, then that would be great. So it never got to an interview process. Brian said he was intrigued that I was interested and then I would be on that list to be considered, but it never went any further than that. So, I was pleased that, I reached out to him. I'm very happy with what I'm doing with the Yes Network and look forward to broadcasting next year again. But I just wanted them to know that I'm at a time in my life that I would be intrigued about the possibility, and obviously they got a great one in Aaron Boone.
Now, would that mean that possibly somewhere else you'd be interested?
We'll see what opportunities come. Like I said, I'm definitely at a point in my life now. My kids are getting a little bit older. And I always thought I wanted to get back out on the field, and when the opportunity opened up with the manager's job at the Yankees, obviously everybody would be interested in that. And, we'll see what opportunities are out there. But like I said, very happy doing what I'm doing for the Yes Network and really looking forward to broadcasting next year for a team that should be really good again and really exciting.
Now, okay, so a lot of people thought that Carlos Beltran was going to be the front runner for this job, including me. What do you think that it was that he ultimately didn't get the job? Because I'm kind of thinking that the fact that he just retired like a month ago might have been a major factor.
Yeah, that's what it was for me, too. I was on the Yes Network on the Hot Stove Show last week, and we were talking about Carlos, and you know what, he is going to be a great future manager if he wants to do it. I mean, bilingual, great communicator, obviously has the resume as a player, really relates well to people, and kind of has that presence. But the one thing I was concerned about, and you go through it as a player when you retire, is you need to get away from the game for a little bit. It's really been, a 24-hour-a-day, time-consuming job for 20 years for Carlos. And I think just getting away, maybe in a diminished role with an organization to change your outlook on the game, not so much from a player, but from an organization standpoint, I think will really benefit him. So I think that probably at the end was maybe what concerned Brian Cashman and his staff. But there's no doubt the future is bright for Carlos, whatever he wants to do in the game.
Now, moving on to Aaron Boone. What are some of the pros we'll start with first for Aaron Boone?
Well, first, he's a great communicator. I was lucky enough to play with Aaron a few months in 2003. And when he got traded to the Yankees, he just transitioned into our clubhouse so easily, and it was everybody. He got along great with the stars on the team. He got along well with backup players, role players like myself. And that was something I noticed right away. I played against Aaron for quite a bit before that, but when he walked in that clubhouse, it felt like you had a relationship already with him. And I think that's going to be his greatest asset as a Yankee manager, is walking into a clubhouse of people and personalities that he really does not know. And it won't take long for him to get to know them. It won't take long for them to get to know him. So I think communication is obviously going to be his strength.
And, I mean, a couple cons for him: no managerial experience, not even coaching experience. What else is there?
Well, I think that's probably it, as far as the cons, and even myself, when you start thinking about if this was a possibility to get this job, never managing or coaching before, what would be the biggest challenges? And I think for Aaron, it's going to be from the sixth inning on during the daily games that he's managing. And that's really all about, matchups with your bullpen that you want to exploit on the other side. It's going to be about late inning moves that I think are probably going to happen really quickly for Aaron. The game speeds up when you get back in the dugout after being a broadcaster for as long as he and I have done it. So you get in a game, things happen really quick, and making sure you have relief pitchers ready to go. Larry Rothschild, obviously the pitching coach, is going to be able to help him out with that, and the analytics department will be able to give him the matchups that he should be looking for. But all that being said, when you get in a game and things start happening quickly, I think that's going to be probably the toughest challenge for Aaron, the first couple of months of the season, and then I think obviously he'll get it.
Now, we've heard a lot about this term analytics being thrown around. I mean, what sort of analytics, what sort of numbers do managers look at? Is it in-game, before game, after the game? Like, what is the whole thing behind analytics in managerial positions?
Well, obviously, never coaching or managing, I'm not 100% sure. What I've been told is that there's really a game plan, a blueprint, a formula for each and every game, and it starts well before the game on what the lineup should be as far as what the analytics talk about. I know there are a lot of times when I show up to work a game and I'm surprised that a hitter had 3 hits the night before and he's not in the lineup the next day. And as an ex-player, that bothers me because I think the game is so much about streaks, when you're swinging the bat well, or on the other side when you're struggling. But, the analytics, they don't see that part of it. They see matchups against specific pitchers, and the numbers speak for themselves. So I think Aaron's probably going to get a lot of input on what the lineup should be. And then, like I said, he's going to get a lot of numbers and matchups with bullpen against an opposing lineup and matchups that you want to exploit. And it's going to be his job to take all of that information during the game, like I said, when things get going quick, to be able to get a matchup that favors his club.
Now, the Yankees got within one game of the World Series this year. Is it World Series championship or bust next year? Because they're clearly in a win-now mode after they exceeded Girardi's team exceeded expectations. What is it going to be for this year? What is the goal?
Wow, that's a great question. I really hadn't thought about that. I would say, obviously, the standard line around the Yankees when you play for them or you work for them is every year our goal is to win the World Series. If you don't win the World Series, it's a failure. For me, last year cannot be considered anything but a major success. Being able to take a young club to the 7th game of the ALCS is a huge win for the organization. Now the next step is to go to the World Series and win it. I don't know if it's fair to say that should happen next year. I think obviously the year after, with a couple of years of experience for these young kids, they're going to be a club that's going to be right there every year. So I don't know if you win a World Series is the goal. I think you just look to improve on what you built on last year. There's really not a whole lot of question marks on this club now, so you just have to have the individuals go out there and get better. A year of experience and postseason experience is going to be huge for this team.
And it's going to help Boone, no doubt, because this lineup, as you just alluded to, is just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. I mean, maybe you can go out and get a starting ace pitcher, but that's going to help him, I assume, in managing, because if he does make a mistake, I think that lineup will be able to kind of mask it in a way. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Talent out trumps inexperience as a manager, right? I mean, you throw a lineup out there, and it was funny. I heard Brian Cashman the other day in Stamford, Connecticut, say, if you're managing this team, you kind of just stay out of the way and let the players play, which really tells you kind of what today's game thinks about a manager. It's just put a lineup out there, stay out of the way, let them go do their thing, and it's such a young, talented team. I think for Aaron, it's going to be keeping some of the personalities happy with their playing time. Toby Ellsbury, what's going to be his role? The DH situation is going to be open. Ohtani, is he going to be somebody that comes to the Yankees and will be difficult for Aaron to kind of figure out pitching and hitting? So there are going to be some challenges for him, but you're right. When you have a talented club like the Yankees have, it obviously makes life a whole lot easier.
Now, finally, and I had a strong opinion about this. I didn't think it was time for Joe Girardi to go. What do you think about Girardi not being asked back this year or for this coming season?
Well, I was completely shocked.
Yeah.
Obviously, you go to the 7th game of the ALCS. I mean, he did a wonderful job in his 10 years here, and I just assumed that the organization would want him back, and then you start hearing things about communication, and maybe there were some issues, but to be quite honest with you, the role of a manager on a major league club has completely changed from what we used to think of it as. And with that, I think they're minimizing the importance of a manager, and with that, you're minimizing how much you should really be paying a manager. So I think there were a lot of things that came into play. With a young core that's going to be moving forward, I guess they felt they needed a new voice. But 10 years at any place is a long time. Joe, at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe would be a little burnt out and he would walk away on his own terms. But obviously, the way the year ended and with the young group looking forward, he wanted to come back, but the organization thought it was time for a change. So it's a risky move, to be honest with you, because you knew what you had in Joe Girardi and a winning manager. And now we don't know a whole lot about Aaron Boone, but I feel really good about it. He's going to do a great job.
Now, I have my later guest coming on, Chris Winn. He's a radio host in Las Vegas, or sports radio. He's from Detroit, and he wants to say hi, and he loved that you had that 27-game hitting streak with his Tigers.
I appreciate that. That was a nice time in my career, so I appreciate him bringing that back up.
All right. So, now, will you be at the Hot Stove event at the Yogi Berra Museum this year?
I will.
Okay.
I will be there again, yeah.
All right, so for those of you guys who want to come out and meet and talk with and listen to JohnFlaherty, and he knows what he's talking about, that'll be January 11th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Yogi Berra Museum. John, if there's anything else you want to add, if not, I'll see you there on January 11th because I'll be there.
I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to the event. It's always a great time at Yogi's Museum, and the people down there just such a fantastic time. So hopefully the fans come out and we'll have another great night.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much for your input, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. Bye. All right, so you heard it. JohnFlaherty, who was considered for the Yankees managerial position, you heard from his mouth what went down. And I would not count that guy out for a managerial job somewhere else, possibly, if it's not New York. Somewhere else, because he is ready. He knows the game inside and out. And, without the managerial experience, who cares? We have a president in office who has no political experience. So that's out the window. Now, as we alluded to in the interview, where we talked about, Carlos Beltran was the 6th person to interview for the job, and Cashman reached out to him. That made people believe that Beltran was the front runner. And Beltran said this is not something that you can turn away from. These types of opportunities, especially one with the Yankees, they don't come very often. I'm committed for the job. There's no doubt about that. And excited if I get the opportunity. I would love to manage. I would love to get back in the game. He talked about how at the end of the regular season, he went up to Brian Cashman and asked for a job in the organization he could be suitable for. And then here we are, Brian Cashman reaches out to him with a managerial opening. That shows me that he is ready, willing, and able to do this. Moving forward, pros for Carlos Beltran, as JohnFlaherty said, he's universally respected throughout the league. He is bilingual. He would be helpful to young Latin players to make sure they get translators, like Gary Sanchez came to my mind. He's been a mentor for a long time if you ask anybody that's ever played with him. He's respected. His communication is a strength. And just coming out of the woodwork here was right before the Yankees announced who their candidate was. Astros outfielder and teammate George Springer said, quote, "He will probably be one of the best managers that any player could ever have. He understands the game. He's a player's guy. He's played the game, obviously, for 20 years. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be one heck of a manager someday." And that comes from a fellow outfielder and World Series teammate George Springer of the Houston Astros. And even the Astros manager, A.J. Hinch, called him a natural connector of people. Again, the cons: no managerial experience, no coaching experience. And one of the things that was brought up was that he would have to manage players that he used to play alongside. That's not impossible. Joe Girardi did it as soon as he walked in the door with the Yankees. I mean, he played with the core 4, and then he managed the core 4. So that, to me, is a non-factor. Late Friday night, though, as you know, a candidate was chosen. Aaron Boone, member of the 2003 team, acquired in July. And he played the rest of that season with the Yankees, which was a total of 54 games. Then, Boone tore his ACL in a pickup basketball game in January 2004, which was against his contract. He was released on February 27th, 2004, and that paved the way for the A-Rod era in the Bronx. And as they say, the rest is history. So there's some jokes floating around social media saying that if Aaron Boone were to get hurt in any way, shape, or form between now and the beginning of the season, A-Rod, doors open for you, buddy. Again, ×2. That's just a joke, though. Boone, with Yankee fans, is most remembered for his walk-off home run in Game 7 of the ALCS versus the Boston Red Sox. He played 12 MLB seasons, 8 seasons as an MLB analyst for ESPN, and now here he is back into the dugout. The reaction I'm seeing, the pulse of this, is kind of mixed. Some people love it. Some people hate it, and I'm going to say most people are in between. I came up with a pros and cons list for him. Some pros: he clearly knows the game of baseball as a broadcaster. You have to know every angle of the game. He's got a personality. He's a personable person, or else, you can't be boring in the booth, as we've seen Tony Romo has such a personality in the broadcasting booth. Apparently, he embraces analytics. He has a willingness to collaborate on the decisions of the organization from the top down. That's coming from the Yankees. And here's my spin. He is somewhat of a yes man. That's what we were expecting following Girardi's departure. We said it on here. He is expected to carry out some of the orders, the marching orders. He is a former player, which means instant respect in the dugout. I mean, I would instantly respect a guy that used to be a player, no doubt. Some cons, and probably the only con, is that he's got zero, as we mentioned, coaching or managerial experience. But again, like I said, we also have a president with no political experience. So that doesn't really matter. But my thoughts, I just think that Aaron Boone, he's an outside-the-box pick. It's almost like a fringe pick. He must have impressed Cashman in that interview, Brian Cashman, the GM, because, he kind of came from nowhere. Because I thought, and I think everybody thought, that Carlos Beltran was the number one. But he did come out and say it's something he's been preparing for his whole life. Both his grandfather and his father played in the MLB, so that's always a plus. But I think that I couldn't even get a head coaching softball position at my high school because I didn't get any or I didn't have any softball experience. I've been a player my whole entire life. I still play. And I coached 6 years as an assistant volleyball coach. And here, Aaron Boone walks in, former player, turned broadcaster, now turned manager, with no coaching experience, and he's going to get full control, the keys to the Ferrari that is the New York Yankees. But I couldn't get a job as a head softball coach at my school. So I don't know how you spin that. But this is sort of the trend, because 15 out of the 30 managers in the MLB have never managed in their minor leagues. 17 out of the 30 are working their first managerial job, MLB. And 4 managers, believe it or not, 4 managers have no MLB playing experience. So Aaron Boone is not in the minority of manager demographics in this league in 2017, soon to be 2018. He was removed from the dugout for 7 years, then he re-entered. I kind of like that, though, because it gives you a chance. You're refreshed, you've grown, you've matured, you've looked at the game from different angles. You're able to come back and wear a new cap, no pun intended. You're a coach, you're a leader, you are the steerer of the ship. You're not just a player anymore. You're not just a soldier on that team. So I kind of like that because of the growth that allows within the 7 years. Also, I thought about this. His experience as a member of the media is going to help him navigate the New York media scene, which apparently people say is one of the toughest to face, especially in the face of a loss. Just ask Ben McAdoo and anybody from the Giants. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I do think that his experience as a member of the media was going to help him manage the media, if that makes sense. I think Boone is an extremely safe pick. I think he can't mess this up unless something absolutely catastrophic happens. He can't mess this up. This is a loaded roster. This Yankees roster is 2 years ahead of schedule. Absolutely loaded. It will take the pressure off of him, and like I said to JohnFlaherty, it'll help mask any mistakes that he makes. Because, I'll go back to Joe Girardi's non-call of a hit batsman in Game 2 versus the Indians in the ALDS this year. The production from the lineup allowed him to mask that error over the course of the series. That did not affect the outcome of the series. And that's a really good position to be in if you are just starting out. You got some guys that you can count on to help you steer the ship. Some co-captains, if you will. That's unlike Girardi's situation. He was in a rebuilding year last year. Everybody knew it. And he had absolutely no pressure. And he got them within 1 game of the World Series last year. Now, I think that the Yankees are expected to make the World Series and probably win it this year. I think that's what's expected of them. And if it doesn't happen, we'd have to expect that Aaron Boone would be on a short leash with this organization, because this is the team. This is the new core 4. And if a World Series title isn't brought to New York within, I don't know, either next year or the year after, I think they're going to find somebody that can get it done. And that will get it done if Aaron Boone can't. Because I put him on a 2-year window, 2-year trial period. Someone just said they need to get rid of Holiday and keep Frazier. Yeah, Holiday didn't do much for me. He's always hurt. I like Frazier. He came up clutch in a couple situations. And then you have to think about Jacoby Ellsbury and Brett Gardner, as JohnFlaherty said. I think Ellsbury, I think he'd be a good trade chip. And I also think Brett Gardner's a good trade chip, too. Because then you have an outfield of Clint Frazier, Aaron Judge, and Aaron Hicks, which I like a lot better than an outfield with Gardner in left, Ellsbury in center, and Judge in right. I mean, instant upgrade if you can get rid of and unload and trade Ellsbury or Gardner. And that, Ellsbury's got that gigantic contract, so I know that's had an impact on his movability. And yes, Gardner did have a good year, and that's a great trade piece. I agree. But the Yankees need starting pitching. I've been saying it for years. They need, although the pitching did pick up in the playoffs, definitely, they just need that ace, that guy that Verlander that's going to come out and just absolutely dominate from start to finish. So, getting back to Aaron Boone, I think his lack of coaching managerial experience is certainly a gamble. But remember, you have to remember that he also played for Joe Torre, who, in my opinion, is the best manager of all time. And he played alongside the core four in Jeter, Pettit, Posada, and Rivera. And I've interviewed many teammates of his, and JohnFlaherty is one of them. You know, and I've talked to Andy Pettit, and I'm always told that that group of Yankees always knew how to win. So this is, in my opinion, the new core four. And Boone's just going to be fine, especially with that lineup. But the problem is going to occur if he can't get a World Series title within the next 2 years. That's when some issues are going to occur. Mark Teixeira, who was highly critical after the fact, though, about Joe Girardi's clubhouse management. He was a player under Joe Girardi. He called this a fantastic hire by the Yankees with Aaron Boone. Good luck, my friend. #28. That was from Mark Teixeira. With all this in place now, the next piece to fall is going to be where does Japanese superstar Shohei Ohtani and CC Sabathia's free agency? Where does Shohei Ohtani fall? Where does Japanese superstar Ohtani fall? And what about CC Sabathia as a free agent? Will he be back in pinstripes? He had a great postseason, but then again, that may be a good negotiation tool to unload him and go younger. You know? I think I love, by the way, what Ohtani's doing. He's making teams make, no pun intended, again, I'm pretty good at this today, pitches to him as to why he should go and play for them. And it's just not about the money, it's about everything else. So I kind of like that. And he put that out to every single team. I don't know. I think that's pretty genius, actually. And I heard him call, I think it was, I don't want to say the wrong name, but I've heard him being called the player of a millennium, or player of a career, player of a lifetime. I haven't done much research into that, but maybe I'll have time this week to look into that for you guys for next week. You guys heard from JohnFlaherty some great insight from him. And if I had the computers working today, I have commercials and everything, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. I'll try it one more time. But next segment coming up, man down. Man down. Man down. The Giants tossed Eli aside in the most brutal way possible. Eli Manning discussion, Ben McAdoo discussion, and a conversation with Chris Winn. We can talk about the Giants coming up against the Raiders today at 4:25 p.m.
Dilly. Greg, you're alive. Where'd you go? Get beer. Wait, so you escaped the pit of misery and you came back? Yeah, with Bud Light. That is the dumbest thing that I know. Shut up, Doug. Yeah, shut up, Doug. Dilly. So, what I miss? Carrying pride. No, I did. Yes, you did. Here's to the friends you can always count on.
Listen, I know I'm late to the party here, but this is my first chance to talk about this. What the Giants organization did to Eli Manning was just absolutely terrible. They made a grown man cry. It was so unprofessionally done. And John Mara, the owner of the Giants, wasn't even in the building that day. That is just absolutely, utterly, and completely disrespectful. Listen, Eli Manning's numbers for this season were on par, matching his career numbers. In a miserable season, Manning was not the problem. He's a consummate professional, he's a proven winner, and he's a reliable player that has absolutely been embarrassed on the national stage by this cowardly head coach, his GM, and his ownership. Eli Manning's numbers are on par with his career numbers in almost every single statistical category, including during last year's 11-win team. And Matthew Stafford of the Lions, he has similar numbers. Are they going to bench him in Detroit? No. The answer is no. Eli Manning was made to look like a scapegoat in a situation that had and has many moving parts. This fallout would not have happened, though, if Davis Webb had been given the keys to this team. He could potentially be the future of this organization, and the Giants need to figure him out before the draft next year, in 2018, right in the beginning of the year there. We, in this town, know what Geno Smith is all about. We watched him for years. We watched him for years as a Giant and as a Jet. And they turned to him? He is not the answer. He is not the future of this team. Why on earth would Geno Smith be starting for the Giants? It is detrimental for the Giants. He's a solid backup. He's a career backup, and we already know that we are not learning anything new by starting Geno Smith today in Oakland. My favorite headline, I had to go back and find this. My favorite Geno Smith story. You ready for this? This is in 2014. He was a second-year quarterback, not even a rookie quarterback, with the New York Jets. Here's the best story about Geno Smith. He missed the team meeting in San Diego because he was out at the movies. And this is a word for word. I'm going to read it, a direct quote from Geno Smith. Okay, ready? He missed the team meeting because he was out at the movie theater. Okay, I guess by himself. Here's the quote. He says, and that also speaks to his character, if he is going by himself, because maybe they sent him there on purpose, but that's besides the point. Here's the quote from Geno Smith. He says, quote, "Well, see the time. We always get the schedule. We get emails and all that stuff. Mainly, I just counted down instead of counting up and got the times mixed up. So I guess you could say I was on West Coast time, thinking I was on West Coast time thinking I was on East Coast time when we were actually on West Coast time. So that was just my mishap. It really has nothing to do with the time zones." End quote. This guy is the guy that they picked to lead their organization? You have to be kidding me. He can't even figure out the times. And this is so ironic that I brought up this story because today they're playing in West Coast time in Oakland. Maybe he will. Maybe he's gonna miss. Maybe he's at the movies again, and maybe he's gonna miss his start today because that would be the best thing to happen to this Giants team. Geno is absolutely detrimental for the Giants. He's a solid career backup, and the only thing I could think of is possibly that they're buying time for Davis Webb to make a start next week with the guy who they drafted last year. That's inexcusable as well because Davis Webb should have been dressing every single game of this season so far if this was the move that you knew you were going to make, John Mara, at the end of this season. Davis Webb has yet to dress for a Giants game, including today, on the sidelines. It doesn't make any sense. This was completely mishandled from top to bottom, from start to finish. Listen, I've been calling for Webb all season long once the Giants are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and yes, they are. But this needs to be handled correctly and gracefully, which is the exact opposite of how it was done. They embarrassed Eli Manning. People are absolutely up in arms. And John Mara wasn't even in the building that day. I don't understand it. Because, okay, Davis Webb, the jump from number 3 quarterback to number 1 this has happened all Monday or Tuesday. That's really tough. But had this guy been dressing all along and getting first-team reps or even second-team reps all along, we wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe that the thought process that there is, and I'm just trying to throw him a bone, is that they didn't want to shock the guy, Davis Webb, and just have him jump right into the pool without getting his toes wet and adjusted first, because I know I'd like to get my toes wet first too, and I don't like to jump right into a pool. But I'm calling for a Davis Webb debut in Week 14 at home versus the Dallas Cowboys. That is what I am predicting. Player reactions all along the league were fast and they were furious. Former players, but I'm going to present to you guys 2 that I found very, very I don't know. I mean, these were the two of the guys that should not be saying anything nice about Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers and Tom Brady. Eli infamously traded spots with Phillip Rivers on draft day, and the Chargers and the Giants, they had a huge controversial switch. He's on Eli's side. And Tom Brady, who Eli's Giants beat twice in the Super Bowl, he's on his side. So here are the quotes from Phillip Rivers. He said, quote, "I honestly thought it was pathetic, really. The guy's been out there for 210 straight games with no telling how many bumps and bruises and injuries for his team. He won 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs. The respect he's had in the locker room over the years, really the respect he's gained throughout the league. You feel like the guy's earned the opportunity. And if, in fact, they are deciding, in fact, to go with another direction, you feel that he's earned the opportunity to finish off these last 5 starts. I just thought it was too bad the way that they handle it. And then certainly Eli, we're not close buddies, but as a friend, as a fellow quarterback, it was tough to watch him yesterday. I can only imagine how he felt." Tom Brady, who's Eli's Giants beat twice in the Super Bowl, says, quote, "I mean, I have nothing but the most respect for him and everything he's achieved and accomplished in his career. Obviously, being on the other side of those 2 Super Bowl losses to an Eli Manning-led team, I just have so much respect for his dependability, for his consistency, for his toughness. You know, that's really everything you want in an NFL player, and I think Eli has always provided that for his team. So I think it's a pretty unfortunate situation. You always wish for everything to go like a fairy tale, but it doesn't. Michael Jordan played for the Washington Wizards. I mean, who would have ever believed that? And that's just pro sports," says Tom Brady. And then Justin Pugh, who is, I don't think he's playing today, says, and this is a teammate of Eli's, a current teammate, a current Giant, says, quote, "Obviously, it lets you know that no one's untouchable. Because if anyone is untouchable, it'd be Eli Manning. I used to say I've seen it all, but now I've seen it all." And I love that. I used to say I've seen it all, but now I've seen it all. That has been the mantra here in New York and New Jersey and across the nation this whole week. I mean, this is still relevant. And today, it's almost a week later, this is still relevant. And then the quotes from John Mara and Ben McAdoo, you got to listen to this. So McAdoo says it's a, quote, "emotional decision." All week he's calling this an emotional decision. And Kim Jones, who is the gold standard of reporting, she was a guest on this show once in the past, she pressed him on this. Finally, someone asked him about this. She says, quote, "From the demeanor that we see from you, I don't know if we see that this is an emotional decision for you," end quote. Guess what his response was? He says, quote, "Again, you have to separate the emotions and your feelings and make a decision that you feel is right for the organization moving forward," end quote. He continued on to say that, quote, "Geno Smith gives us the best chance to win," end quote. What? Geno Smith gives you a better chance to win over Eli Manning? You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts if you absolutely believe that. I don't know what Kool-Aid you're drinking, Ben McAdoo, but are you, I mean, what? Geno Smith gives you the best chance to win? The guy's in his 5th year. He's a 5th-year veteran, Geno Smith, and he's a backup ever since. He gives you the best chance to win over Eli Manning? You're absolutely out of your mind. And then here comes John Mara. Here comes John Mara saying that he and Jerry Reese have had conversations about this in the past. Why wasn't Eli Manning included in those conversations? That's what I want to know. Why wasn't John Mara the one to talk to Eli Manning? Why did it have to be Ben McAdoo? Manning did so much for Mara over the past years that he's been here, including winning 2 Super Bowls. He couldn't be given the respect to be told by the owners of the team. He had to go through the scapegoat McAdoo. I think Eli Manning should have been given the respect to be a part of those meetings about discussing his future and the future of the team that he cared so much about and put so much on the line for over all the years. John Mara wasn't even in the building. He says, quote, "I wish I could have been here when it was all going down. I did not expect Eli to react by saying, 'Go ahead and start the other guys.' That took me by surprise." Are you a moron? You don't know you're Eli Manning, quarterback, captain by now? That took you by surprise? I don't think that took anybody by surprise. Eli Manning is the consummate team player. Of course he was going to say that. And apparently the plan was to start Manning, let him play the first half, and put Geno Smith in the second half. That was apparently what was offered to Eli Manning. Why on earth would you ever take that? Nobody would take that. Mara says, I have so much respect for Eli, I would take his desires into consideration this offseason. If you have so much respect for Eli to take his desires into consideration this offseason, why didn't you do it last week? Mara, when asked if McAdoo is safe for the rest of the year, he replies, quote, there are no guarantees in life. There are no guarantees in life. Why wouldn't McAdoo be let go first? And now there's new news coming out, and I'm going to get to that in about 5 minutes. Warrior Class says on Periscope that the Giants were once a proud organization. Once. This is the Giants doing the best impersonation of the Jets, but 10 times, 100 times, a million times worse. And here's a cool graphic that I'll tweet out. NFC East starting quarterback since Week 11 of 2004. The Giants have, I'll show you here, the Giants have one quarterback. Redskins have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 starting quarterbacks since 2004 for the Redskins. The Cowboys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them since 2004 have started for the Cowboys. And the Eagles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 quarterbacks for the Eagles have started also since 2004. The Giants have one, number 10, Eli Manning. That should speak volumes. So now what? Now what do we do with Eli Manning? He turns 37 in January. He's got salary cap hits of more than $22 million in each of the next 2 seasons. So this morning, I woke up and there were 2 options. And now, walking into this radio station, there are now 4 options on the table for Eli Manning. Option 1, Eli Manning starts again next year with the Giants with a new coach and a new GM, and hopefully, I pray to God, a new offensive line. And Eli Manning, that offensive line is terrible. I say it every single week. He never once criticized them in the media, by the way. When I woke up this morning, that didn't look probable because Mara keeps saying it was an organizational decision. Mara kept saying that he didn't think Eli Manning would turn down the opportunity to start and then come out. Then you don't know your quarterback. Also, of note, the Giants' offense has failed to score 30 points in any of its last 27 games, which is the entire tenure of Ben McAdoo. They've never scored more than 30 points. Only the Bears and the Browns have longer active streaks. And when you're in a conversation and in the same sentence as the Browns, you're doing something wrong. Okay, so the option that I think, option 1, Eli starts again next year with a new coach and a new GM. Option 2, Eli Manning asks for a trade to another team. I think Jacksonville is a perfect fit for him. They have a running game in Leonard Fournette, who possibly could be Rookie of the Year. That's something that's been missing from the Giants for a very long time. The Jags' running game is the best, number 1, in the league. It's a reunification with Tom Coughlin and the Giant years and Super Bowl years. And how about defense? Well, the Jaguars have the best total defense in the league, and it's not even close. So Eli Manning, if he's going to go somewhere else, is going to go to Jacksonville, no doubt. Option 3, and they don't have a quarterback either down there in Jacksonville. Option 3, which came out this morning that I saw, that his father, also an NFL player, quarterback, hinted that Eli could retire following this absolute debacle, and that would be a shame. And option 4, which I think is going to happen. Are you ready for this one? You ready for this one? Buckle your seatbelts. Eli Manning is going to be the Giants quarterback next week, starting quarterback next week. Yep, I think so. Reports are that Ben McAdoo will be the first Giants head coach fired in season. Good. Thank God. McAdoo should have been gone a long time ago. There's just some guys that are not cut out to be head coaches, and Ben McAdoo is one of them. He won last year. They won 11 games last year. That was Tom Coughlin's team. He was exposed this year. Ben McAdoo was exposed this year of the fact that this guy, listen, I'm a coach too. This guy cannot lead a team of men that are going into battle every single week. You've got anonymous sources. You've got boat trips. You've got a lack of discipline for the star players on this team after those boat trips, which pisses other guys off in the locker room because they say favoritism and all that. And then those guys try to get away with things. And that's where you have suspensions of Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and Janoris Jenkins. This is a guy that was trying to drop the hammer. And one, it was entirely too late. His expectations are clearly not clear. He is not respected in the locker room, which is also clear. You should take a look at the injury report. You think guys are going to play for a guy like this? He's a clueless coach. He's got no control, and he has no self-responsibility. He thought he can handle it all, and you saw it. You knew he didn't know what he was doing when he was trying to call plays as the head coach, and then mid-season, he handed over his play-calling abilities to his offensive coordinator. You just knew it right then and there that he had no idea what he was doing. So there's 10 head coaches this year that are on the hot seat, which is above average for the NFL this year. Ben McAdoo doesn't even deserve a shot at any one of those head coaches' positions. I wouldn't even, for the Browns, I wouldn't even wish Ben McAdoo on the Cleveland Browns. He ran the Giants program into the ground in 2 years, less than 2 years. So here's what happens. The Maras now get bailed out because they're going to get a mulligan. They're going to fix this Eli injustice, and they're going to fix it, and they're going to try a do-over, and they're going to try and pass the torch in the right way. I think Eli Manning starts next week, and it's a shame his streak has to come to an end out of this embarrassment this week. One game, one chink in that streak, one chink in that armor. Ben McAdoo tonight, you'll see it. Ben McAdoo is going to be flying United coach on his way home from Oakland tonight. He will not be on the Giants team plane tonight. They will fire him before he can even print his boarding pass. And deservedly so. So what happens then? Well, what happens then? I think, and I'm going to say that Steve Spagnuolo, the Giants defensive coordinator, is going to be the replacement for Ben McAdoo. This guy was Eli's Super Bowl. He wasn't Eli's direct coach, but he was a coach with Eli Manning, with the Giants when Eli Manning and them won the Super Bowl in 2007 versus the Patriots. They sacked Tom Brady 5 times that time, which he hadn't been sacked 5 times that season, that entire season. They did it 5 times in one game. I think Steve Spagnuolo is a great fit because guess what? Steve Spagnuolo interviewed for the head coach job when the Giants went ahead and picked McAdoo. So he is a guy that has head coach aspirations, clearly, if he went out for the job 2 years ago. And he's a defensive coordinator. And he has, in my opinion, he has the respect of that locker room. And he understands the tradition of that locker room and everything that goes along with that. He's a player's coach. That's for sure. Steve Spagnuolo, listen, here it is. Here it is. McAdoo will be fired tonight. Tuesday, Spagnuolo is going to come out and be named as the interim head coach. By Wednesday, we're going to have a plan for Eli Manning, which is going to be Eli's going to start. And then Davis Webb is going to come in the second half. Forget Geno Smith. And that's what I think. And that's, mark my words, that's what's going to happen. Oh, just one more thing. Guess what? By the way, early Wednesday morning, right after this whole thing went down on Tuesday, Eli Manning was seen with Davis Webb in the team cafeteria that next morning, early. It was like 7:30. He was mentoring him, showing him things, which is great, which is Eli Manning. That is Eli Manning in a nutshell. But I have one more final question I want to leave you with. That if Manning is sitting with Webb in the cafeteria, where was Geno Smith? He's getting a start this week, today. Where was he? He's probably at the movies. So with Geno at the helm, how did the Giants play today? We're going to have a call in from Chris Winn from Las Vegas because the Raiders are moving to Las Vegas. So I had an intro song here that was going to be like the Who song. Who are you? Which Giants team is going to show up in Oakland later today? We don't know. Is this going to be the Rams-Giants, or this is going to be the Broncos-Giants? Because the 2-9 New York Giants are playing at the 5-6 Oakland Raiders today, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders. That's at 4:25 p.m. on Fox. Now, not that it means anything, but Geno Smith is 2-0 versus the Raiders, which is with an entirely different team. What does that even matter? But I just felt like I had to tell you that. Eli Manning's 210-game win streak does come to an end. And what is the biggest thing to watch today? Number one for me is going to be, how hard will the Giants be playing? Here comes another injury. Janoris Jenkins is out with a season-ending injury. We don't know what Eli Apple's doing today. Is he going to miss his third straight game? And what are the Raiders going to do without Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper? Which is something I hope Chris can answer. You gotta give it to guys like Evan Ingram. He's been the only one and the only. Evan Ingram and Eli Manning, bright spots on this roster. Both Mississippi dudes, university. So going over the injury reports, some notables for the Raiders. Like I just mentioned, Amari Cooper is out with a concussion/ankle. Michael Crabtree is out with the suspension, which I am not particularly happy about since he's on my fantasy team. And he didn't get me 1 point last week before he decided he was going to start that fight. Some Giants injury notables. I'm going to include Eli Manning as an injury notable because I think he's back next week. I think that's how the Giants have approached this, that this is going to be an injury, not a retirement party. That's at least I hope how they did it. So Eli Manning is not playing. Jonathan Casillas is also out with a neck and a wrist injury. Damon Harrison is questionable, last I saw. Justin Pugh is doubtful, offensive lineman. Eli Apple is questionable. He hasn't played in the past 2 games. Today would be the 3rd consecutive. And Janoris Jenkins, like I just said, is landing on the IR with an ankle injury. All right, so on the phone we have Chris Winn. He's the host of a sports radio show in ESPN Las Vegas and Fox Sports Las Vegas. Chris, how did I do?
Danielle, it's good to talk to you. I like the passion. Wow, fired up. Little Ben McAdoo. Does not love coming to stay. Let's put it that way.
No. Nope. So I guess I'll start with that then. It's like a little segue here. I know the Giants news made it all the way out there to bench future Hall of Famer Eli Manning. It made reverberations all across the country. What is the pulse in Vegas about Eli Manning there?
Oh, no doubt about it, Danielle. It was a major topic on our airwaves pretty much all week long, given, look, we like to break down the games and, all the key matchups around the NFL. But when it comes to a team like the Giants that have won multiple, not just one Super Bowl with Eli Manning at the helm, but they've won 2 with that guy. And the decision is made in week 12 in a season that is long gone when it comes to the Giants, and you decide to bench a quarterback who a lot of people say is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Now, I think that's still a tad bit up for debate, but
no way.
A Hall of Fame quarterback.
No way.
Well, I mean, look, he is. He's been a fixture there for a number of seasons, and it was a big reason why they won those Super Bowls. To make that decision it's not like you made it for Davis Webb, or you made it for Andrew Luck, or you made it for some franchise quarterback. You make it for Geno Smith. It was safe to say it perked some ears up, let's put it that way, around the country, and people had some pretty strong opinions as to why that decision was made at this time.
Yeah, I mean, Montana to Young, Bledsoe to Brady, Favre to Rodgers, Manning to Smith.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Where does that make sense? Yeah, nowhere.
Yeah, and by the way, during your show here, there's been, I guess you could call it some breaking news, because Will Brinson from CBS Sports was actually touting out both Mortensen as well as Adam Schefter from ESPN, saying that it's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered, Danielle, that he is going to be out of his job by as early as Monday morning.
Oh, yeah.
So, and of course, you talked a lot about what Mara's position is on this, and you were very opinionated, and rightfully so, regarding the ownership and how where they stand there. But from Adam Schefter's standpoint, from Chris Mortensen and some others around the league, basically the thought is that, hey, John Mara did not like the way that it was handled. He is not happy with McAdoo, not only with that decision, but of course with the offense the entire season. Now, look, we understand There's been injuries across the board. When you lose some key guys on offense like they have, particularly at wide receiver, they're going to struggle. But their offense was still struggling even before some of those injuries went down. So they haven't been happy with what McAdoo has brought to the table, both from an offensive standpoint and from the head coaching position. So it appears that the decision has pretty much already been made, regardless of what happens in this matchup against the Raiders today.
Well, and just to say it just one more time, if Mara was so unhappy with it, he should have been there.
And that was an indication also is that, look, he did sign off on it. Yep. I mean, even if he wasn't there, and even if it wasn't an ideal decision, he did eventually sign off. So he doesn't escape complete blame here.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it. This was Ben McAdoo's decision, as far as benching him in the and going into week 13 of a season that is lost. And his opinion, not his opinion, but John Mara's opinion, and the opinions, I'm sure, a lot of New Yorkers there and a lot of fans around the country were like, that's not how you treat a guy that's been there for over a decade and has brought you 2 Super Bowls and is most likely headed towards the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, so let's get into today. My big question is going to be, how hard are the Giants playing for Geno Smith? Are they going to be somewhat protesting, giving 75% effort as a way to probably, or hopefully, not hopefully, but maybe make a stand about starting Geno over Eli? That is to be determined. But let's just say that the Giants are going to come 100%. Well, let's first talk about the Raiders. How is head coach Jack Del Rio going to adapt his game plan without both Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree in this lineup today?
Well, that's the funny thing, isn't it? Like, look, you looked at this matchup at the beginning of the season. You thought to yourself, wow, there's going to be some decent offenses here. You probably had 2 teams that were going to go into this matchup with playoff possibilities and playoff scenarios and looking to head towards that with great players on both sides. Obviously not the case in the situation, as both these teams, particularly from a wide receiver standpoint, are hindered big time. We know about the Giants situation, of course, with the Raiders. You mentioned Amari Cooper. He's still in the concussion protocol. You got, of course, the 1-game suspension of Michael Crabtree for that fiasco last week that went down on the field against the Denver Broncos. So they're going to look to guys like Josh Roberts. They're going to look to Jared Cook at the tight end position. They're going to look at some other pieces. Obviously, Cordarrelle Patterson's another guy. I think that's going to be key in this matchup today. He was someone that had a lot of promise when he was in Minnesota with the Vikings. He's an explosive player, a special teams guy. He came over to the Raiders and really basically was a victim of the numbers game, of course. When you got Cooper and Michael Crabtree out there, it doesn't make it real easy for a guy like that to get on the field. They're going to count on him today, and Derek Carr's going to count on him. And Marshawn Lynch, look, I mean, Marshawn is nowhere near what he was when he was beast mode in Seattle, but he had a pretty good game last week against the Broncos in a win, and it looked like the offense got a little bit more on track last week. So I think this is one of those games where the Raiders get right on the defensive side of things, and given what the situation is with the Giants, and you mentioned the effort level, I just don't see it. I don't understand how anyone would expect the Giants to come out there and play big for Geno Smith. I think about Geno, it's like, you ever see the movie Any Given Sunday with Pacino and Jamie Foxx? I think about this as like when Jamie Foxx got the whole team pissed off at him, and then went out there and they all laid an egg in a drowning rainstorm. That's kind of what I think it's going to be here. I mean, nothing against Geno Smith from his personality standpoint, but I just don't see any way possible that the Giants find a way to get up for this game, considering it's week 13 and they are going absolutely nowhere fast.
Backwards.
When it comes to any type of postseason play or anything like that. Mm-hmm. They're basically playing out the string, and you've got a Raiders team that they're still in it, given what has gone down in the AFC West as of late, of course, with a team like, say, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Now, I don't know if you've seen anything, but I saw this last night. Giants linebacker Devin Kennard sent out a tweet on April 14th, 2017. Talk about going back and seeing what this matchup would be like back then. I guess that's when the schedules came out. And the tweet was, quote, So looking like our D going to get the chance to shut down a legend this year when we play Oakland, which is, and then he put the eyes watching emoji. Obviously, Marshawn Lynch. Times have changed clearly. Have you seen Lynch comment back to that at all in the media out there? Is that a fired up Lynch that the Giants are going to really need to encounter today?
No, he hasn't really, to be quite honest with you, he hasn't addressed it. I don't think he's even been on the radar there. And look, we are already here in Las Vegas covering the Raiders like they're already here. All of our newspapers, all of our media outlets, we send people to the games. And to be quite honest with you, that's never even come up. It's never even been a discussion. And when it comes to Marshawn, look, those kinds of things would usually catch somebody's eye or somebody's ear.
Yeah, that's what I was figuring.
Here, and no one's even heard a peep out of that. So I don't think it's something that really is focused on. Now maybe after the game something might come up with Jack Del Rio, because Marshawn Lynch, he's not exactly media.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
He's not the media guy. Let's put it that way. When you think about all the players on the Raiders that if you want to go in the interview from, Marshawn's not the first guy to go to. But if Marshawn were to say something, maybe you'd possibly say something about it. But I just don't anticipate that's going to be the case in this matchup today.
So I guess that's good news for the Giants in a way.
Right.
So the Raiders are, like you said, they're at 5-6, but they're still in the mix for a wild card spot. Where do they finish out the season? What's your projection for them?
I think that they're going to be just on the outside looking in. Look, the rest of their schedule is not easy. Let's put it that way. I had a chance to talk to JT the Brick. Actually, he's host his national show over on Fox Sports Radio here in Vegas, and he worked for the Raiders for a number of years, obviously. So he's all wired in up in Oakland, and he just talked about the schedule. He said, "Look, they're going to only be favored in 2 games the rest of the season. This is one of them against the Giants coming up today." So you get matchups against teams like the Chargers, the Cowboys, some other games where there's going to be teams that are fighting playoff spots themselves, and Kansas City Chiefs. So it's a daunting schedule, and the outlook is a little bit bleak when it comes to the playoffs. They already had some losses this year. I think that basically cost them when it comes to the postseason. So when it's all said and done, basically what I think it's going to be a disappointing season for the Raiders, but it's going to be a circle the wagons type of deal because they've got the young nucleus, they've got young players, they're going to be here for a while. It's not like it's a veteran-laden football team where you got 5, 6 key contributors that are going to be sayonara to their career and leaving this team anytime soon. It's a pretty young nucleus. So anybody that's a Raider fan, whether it's in Las Vegas or Oakland or in California or on the West Coast, period, basically has very high hopes for this team going forward, despite the fact that they probably will not be a playoff team here in 2017, 2018.
If you had to give a score prediction for today's game, what would it be?
I'd look at this as probably somewhere around the lines of 35-17 Oakland. I think offensively they're going to be able to handle things regardless of not having Crabtree and Cooper in there. Look, Amari Cooper has been a guy who we all saw what he did last year. It was like, wow, this guy's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the league, right? Some of the numbers he's putting up was pretty impressive. This year hasn't been the case. He's been, he's had a couple sporadic games. He had one great game, I believe it was week 4 or 5, where he put up massive numbers. But he's been kind of under the radar so far this season. So it's not like not having him, I think, has been a huge factor this year. But I just think that Derek Carr, he's gonna utilize the other pieces that he does have, whether it's Roberts, whether it's Jared Cook. I think Jared Cook could have a big game today. And I think Marshawn Lynch he can bring those flashes. There's times where he can, they'll have the second down 5 on the 5-yard line, and Marshawn will get in the end zone. And it's against teams like the Giants where those types of things seem to happen as of late. So that's where I think that the Raiders will pull out of their offense, and I think they're going to be able to weather the storm as far as the injuries concerned, the offensive side of things, and maybe even create a couple of defensive opportunities here, whether it's pick 6. Because, look, Danielle, you're there in New York. How much confidence do people in the tri-state area have that Geno Smith is going to all of a sudden go out there and be some electrifying quarterback?
Zero. Absolutely zero.
Yeah.
But that's that's what makes him dangerous. Yeah, but in a way that makes him a little bit dangerous, though. He's going to be playing with an edge. I shouldn't say I think zero. I'm going to give him like a 5% chance of success today.
And Jack Del Rio kind of said that. He said that in the press conference yesterday. He said, look, people forget Geno Smith back in 2015 when he was with the Jets, and he came out here and had a decent game, I guess. I don't remember the game, but, you know, there was a few games where Geno Smith showed some promise. But, you know, for the most part, that was not the case with the Jets. So, you know, so I guess Jack Del Rio is taking a cautious approach.
Mm-hmm.
And they're preparing, you know, like he's going to play one of his better games. But I just can't believe that's going to be the expectation from everybody else that's watching this matchup.
And finally, before I let you go, today's the Giants' last trip ever to Oakland, California. How has construction been going on at the stadium in Las Vegas after they broke ground? It wasn't long ago. What's the recent?
It's been pretty cool, Danielle. A couple weeks ago, they had the groundbreaking. All the celebrities, all the local entertainers,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ex-Raiders coming down. You had Howie Long. You had you know, all the guys from the 70s and 80s were in town. And look, the location is there. It's underway. They're hoping everything goes smoothly. It's Las Vegas. I mean, everybody understands the weather situation out here. This is why, I mean, when it comes to being able to keep a project on time, when it comes to construction, and keeping all their ducks in a row, and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, this is the town where stuff like that gets built quickly. Like anytime there's a brand new casino, brand new hotel, that thing goes up in a matter of days. So as of right now, the timeline is set and it's ready to roll. And hopefully we don't have any issues like they did in Los Angeles, of course, with the stadium there. Mm. And they can get things rolling so it's all set for 2020. And then we'll be ready to see some NFL football here in Las Vegas. The hockey situation has been pretty solid.
Yeah.
And it's been impressive, to say the least, as far as the fan support and the crowds there at T-Mobile. I anticipate nothing less when you've got NFL football coming to Las Vegas as well with the Oakland Raiders.
Exciting times. Well, Chris, I'll see you in February. Thanks for coming on today and dealing with a little bit of the delay that I had going on here.
Absolutely, Danielle. Always great to talk to you. Have a great weekend, and we'll get a chance to check out some exciting Giants-Raiders football today. Wow, can't wait.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye. And also, they're extending the monorail if you've been to Vegas, they're extending the monorail from the side of the MGM across the street over to the Mandalay Bay side, which is going to just help in getting people to and from that stadium when it is built. So I came up with some Giants keys to the game. Watch for the big play. The Raiders are first in the NFL in plays over 20 yards, with 12. It's going to be interesting to see how they manage this with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree out, though, because obviously those stats are inclusive of those two guys. Giants need to watch and know where Khalil Mack is on the field at all times. He is second in the league with defensive linemen with 52 tackles and 6.5 sacks. The guy's a monster. He's got the ability to split double teams. They have to keep him occupied. They have to run at him, and they cannot give him space to make big plays. He's got an explosive pass rush. Marshawn Lynch, as we mentioned, he's a runner, he's a catcher, he's a blocker. The best part about him is he's an after-the-contact runner. He's patient and he's hard to tackle. So the Giants need to flush him out to the sidelines defensively. They can't allow him to run north and south because, like when you play Madden on the video games, the truck stick, I think Marshawn Lynch invented that truck stick. McAdoo says that rushing attempts will be important on both sides. They need to plug up the middle defensively and get Lynch to the ground, according to McAdoo. And they need to play sound gap defense, get around the ball, according to him. What the Raiders need to do, they need to stuff the run, force Geno Smith to throw the ball. He's interception prone. We've seen that in New York when he forces the ball, and he does do that often. But they also at the same time need to contain him. He's much more mobile than Eli ever was and ever will be. He can escape the pocket if Khalil Mack is, in fact, flushed out and neutralized. Geno Smith does have some escapability in him. And number 3, what to watch. How will Geno Smith be able to take advantage of one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL? The Raiders only have 1 interception entering play today. Score prediction time. The Giants, by the way, are 31st in the NFL in scoring with only 15.6 points per game. I'm going to say that they're going to be under that. I think the Raiders are going to take this game 24-14. You can go ahead and lock that one in. So now moving forward to player ejections and ref intimidation. What should have been front page news but wasn't due to Eli Manning? The fact that LeBron James got thrown out of a game on Tuesday for the first time ever in his career in the NBA. And too bad that was overshadowed by the Eli Manning news. Unfortunately, that was overshadowed by the Eli Manning news that LeBron James finally gets thrown out of a game. It's such a shame that Eli Manning, the debacle, had to overshadow this because LeBron James has, for the first time, been ejected for intimidating a referee. And he does it often. He does it all the time when things don't go his way. If you ever watched him play, I can't watch him play. But it's overdue, and that there are many more professional players across all of sports who deserve that same treatment. It's just not a good look. The kids are emulating you. So if you're doing it to the referees at the professional level, kids at the younger levels, the high school on down, and college, are emulating you. Like, I always think of the dab. People are still doing it. Kids are still doing it in my class when they get questions right. The dab, which is years ago. Years. And it's not even relevant anymore. Cam Newton started that, as you may or may not know. But to have the kids emulating you, another guy that does it all the time is Rob Gronkowski. I cannot watch him play. He is so big, and so is LeBron. He's just so big that to have him yelling and screaming and gesticulating in your face as a referee, I couldn't imagine. And the referees need, and I'm so happy that that guy stepped up, that referee stepped up in Cleveland that night to toss him. And then, obviously, Enes Kanter, who takes particular exception to LeBron James. Enes Kanter's a Knick. He tweeted something along the lines of, well, LeBron, this is like drama. Basketball's like drama. LeBron said that he is the king of New York when they played here. Enes Kanter took exception to that. There was almost a fight on the court. Now, shortly after, LeBron gets ejected by this referee, and Enes Kanter goes on Twitter and says that the referee is now the king of Cleveland, which I thought was quite funny because I don't live in Cleveland, and I am not a Cavaliers fan, and I am not a LeBron fan. So, and neither am I a Gronkowski fan for the same reason. And there are a bunch of guys all throughout sports that do that, and it's just a shame. So I'm going to start the hashtag #RefLivesMatter. I watch for that on today. Tag me in it. Tag hashtag #RefLivesMatter. At me on Twitter and send me a picture of something that's going on today that you see in your football games that you're watching today. That ref lives do in fact matter. So for your 60-minute overtime hurry-up offense in NBA news, Wednesday night, the Miami Heat at the New York Knicks, and the Knicks took that game 115-86. Enes Kanter of the Knicks was the leading scorer with 22 points and 14 rebounds. Kristaps Porzingis did not practice yesterday with a sprained ankle and is not expected to play today at 3:30 p.m. at home versus the Orlando Magic. That game will be broadcast on the MSG Network. Yesterday afternoon matinee featured the Atlanta Hawks at the Brooklyn Nets. Ultimately, the Hawks won 114-102. Dennis Schroeder of the Hawks was the leading scorer with 24 points and 6 assists. The next game is tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. at the Atlanta Hawks on the Yes Network. In NHL news, Friday night, the Carolina Hurricanes were at the New York Rangers, and the Rangers won handedly 5-1. For the Rangers, Michael Grabner had a hat trick, while Paul Carey, and David Descharnes each had a goal of their own. The next game is Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. at the Pittsburgh Penguins on the NBC Sports Network. And last night, the New Jersey Devils were at the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes won decidedly 5-0. 5 different Coyotes scored, including Derek Stepan, a former New York Ranger. Their next game, the Devils' next game, is Tuesday, 7 p.m. at the Columbus Blue Jackets on MSG+. In NFL news, last Sunday, the Carolina Panthers defeated the New York Jets at home, 35-27. The Jets play today at 1 p.m. in a little while versus the Kansas City Chiefs on CBS. And notably, Darrelle Revis will not only be making his return to MetLife Stadium, but to the NFL in his debut with the Chiefs. Last week, the New York Giants had a bye week. Last night, star wide receiver Sterling Shepard got engaged to girlfriend Chanel Iman last night at her home in New Jersey. Geno Smith will get the start over Eli Manning. Today's game is at 4:25 p.m. at the Oakland Raiders on Fox. And finally, in MLB news, after interviewing 6 candidates, the New York Yankees have selected a new manager following Joe Girardi's departure, ESPN baseball analyst and former MLB player Aaron Boone. Boone played in 54 games for the New York Yankees in 2003. I'm Danielle McCartan, and that was your 60-minute overtime hurry-up offense. So some Jets keys to the game today. 1, 2, and 3 for the Jets. Jets need to win the fourth quarter. They have been outscored by 66 points in the fourth quarter this season. This team is known for committing senseless penalties, giving up costly turnovers, and just absolutely collapsing defensively, especially in the fourth quarter. In the last 5 games, they have blown 3 fourth-quarter leads. Going into today's game against the Chiefs, the Jets have been practicing finishing strong at practice. Coach Todd Bowles, has restructured practice to emulate the pressure of the fourth quarter as best as he possibly could. And that's something I always do as a quarterback. That's something I always do as a coach, is try to emulate the pressure situations as best as I can in practice. I love it. It's called pressure serving. The kids hate it because it puts the pressure on them to serve. But guess what? It makes them better. Diamonds are created under pressure. I always remind them of that. 2, the Jets need to capitalize on the Chiefs' struggling offense. After starting off the season 5-0, the Chiefs have lost 5 of their last 6 games, and they are absolutely reeling. Alex Smith has been struggling of late, which has produced calls for Patrick Mahomes to come in, their new draftee from last year's class. Alex Smith has thrown 4 interceptions over the past 3 games after not throwing a single one in the first 8. I think, in my opinion, if the Chiefs are losing at halftime today, I do think that we are going to see Austin Mahomes make an appearance today. The Jets are 10th in the league with 17 forced turnovers, and this is a game for the defense to step up for the Jets. And finally, the third and final key for the Jets is to book a ticket on Revis's corner to see if it's still Revis's island. 2 weeks ago, Darrelle Revis signed a 2-year, $11 million contract with the Chiefs after being a free agent. Revis, who's 32 years old, has started 140 games over the course of 10 seasons with the Jets, the Bucks, the Patriots, and now the Chiefs. Revis has reportedly lost weight. He's in better shape than he was during his second stint with the Jets. We'll see. And Marcus Peters on the other side is one of the best corners in the league. So I think the Jets go after Revis to see how much more he has left in him, because he definitely was on a downturn when he left the Jets not long ago. Some Chiefs keys to victory. Number 1, a very strong offensive line. Steve McClendon, Leonard Williams, and Muhammad Wilkerson for the Jets are going to have not an easy assignment today to go up against that offensive line. The teams that have been successful against the Chiefs or against the Jets have been able to protect their quarterback. So with Alex Smith struggling and sacked 27 times this season, it's very important for the offensive line to give him as much time as possible in the pocket. If the Jets can't get past the O-line, it's going to force them to bring quarterback pressure from their safeties in Jamal Adams and Marcus May, rookies, and which obviously is going to open up the pass game in the second shelf, the second level of defense. So Jets need McClendon, Williams, and Wilkerson to very much step up today, or else it's going to be a long, tiresome day for their defensive unit. Chiefs need to get to Josh McCown. Well, the guy is, like I said, every week he's having a renaissance season. He's putting up his best statistical year ever. And the Jets' offensive line has been a weak spot on this team. He's been sacked 35 times, which is a lot because it's tied for third most in all of football. Imagine if the guy had a little bit more time to throw the ball. Imagine. The Chiefs have 21 sacks on the season. They're 25th in the league, which is not the best. You got to look for nose tackle Benny Logan, defensive end Alan Bailey, and defensive end Chris Jones to bring the pressure on Josh McCown today. And third and finally, Tyreek Hill is going to be an X factor in the game today because he's matched up against cornerback Buster Skrine. Tyreek Hill is ranked 13th in the league in reception yards with 726. You got to look for him to blow past Skrine in coverage. Skrine is known to get handsy with opponents and then he draws the flag, especially in costly moments of each game. There was a sports science episode of the speed of Tyreek Hill, and it was put to the test. He reached a top speed of 22.3 miles per hour during a 20-yard dash. That's like a car. A car can't even go that fast. So Buster Skrine is going to be blown by in coverage today. He's going to not be able to handle the speed of Hill, and that's going to force him to play from behind the ball and inevitably commit some very costly DPIs, defensive pass interference calls. You're going to look for Alex Smith to target Tyreek Hill in all 4 quarters of the game, either seeking a big play or the penalty flag against Skrine. And like I said, if the Chiefs are down against the lowly Jets at halftime, I do think that you see Patrick Mahomes enter the game today. My score prediction. The Jets are going to have another epic fourth quarter collapse. They're going to lose the game. Chiefs are going to have 21 points. Jets are going to have 17 points. Chiefs win. Jets lose. And Mahomes makes an appearance today. Tia Waleji dropped a career-high 22 points as the Princeton Tigers defeated the Delaware Blue Hens 78-60 at Jadwin Gym Saturday evening last night. That's where I was, being the sideline reporter at that game. The senior captain was a sparkling 8 of 12 from the floor, which is 66.7%, which is awesome. Carly Littlefield added 15 points, 4 steals, and 3 assists. Leslie Robinson recorded a double-double with 14 points and 10 rebounds in the win. The coolest play happened, though. This is Carly Littlefield executed this play. It was underneath the basket. She was inbounding the ball. And, all of her options were covered. And the defense, she noticed that the defense, and she's a Princeton player here, she was smart enough to know that the defense wasn't paying attention to where the ball was going, really, or where she was going to be throwing the ball. So Littlefield, and they tried to get this on get it trending to go onto SportsCenter last night, top plays of the night or whatever. But Littlefield inbounded the ball, and it hit the defender in the lower back. She stepped inbounds, picked up the ball, and shot an easy layup. Unfortunately, there was a foul on the play, etc. But, that was just a heads-up play by a Carly Littlefield to notice that they are not paying attention to her or where the ball was going. They were so preoccupied with the 4 girls that were going to be receiving the ball. Littlefield just took it upon herself. That was amazing. And I did speak with her after the game about that, and here's what she had to say.
I just saw the players were originally supposed to go to Bella, and I saw when they threw that double team on her, I saw they were both focused on Bella. So I just thought if she kind of off of that, they were leaving that wide open. So I just went for it. I did it a lot in high school, so I just tried it here.
I was going to say, is that something you practiced or have done?
I did it a few times in high school, so
yeah. Well, so now, entering play, Delaware averages 72 points a game. You kept them well under that today. What was your defensive plan? It's something that their opponents haven't yet figured out.
We knew Anna Bossi was going to be a worker on both ends, so we really wanted to focus as a team and stopping her together, whether that be digging off if we were on a non-shooter. And so we were just really focused on together trying to stop her.
Now, your tough schedule up until this point, how has that been able to help you guys down the stretch here?
We have a lot of young players, a lot of inexperienced players, and so it's given us a chance to go up against the best and kind of get the close game experience we need if we want to make a deep run this year, which we do. That's definitely a goal of ours. And so I think it's just really helped us work together and really try and figure out how to come together as a team when things get tough.
Now, real quick, you guys have a 4-game road trip coming up. What do you get out of that, real quick?
Road trips are always fun with this team. We love to travel, we love to be together, and so I'm just excited to see how we do on the road.
All right, send it back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Danielle. Tigers improved to 4-2 with the win.
So that was interesting from last night. I enjoy doing this, and I will receive the file from Princeton shortly. If not today, definitely tomorrow. I'll do my best to get that up, my little reel up as fast as possible, so you guys can stay tuned to my YouTube channel for that. Color rush, traveling, and fashion, with a very newly engaged New York Giants wide receiver, Sterling Shepard. Those were the topics of my one-on-one interview with him now. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning with me. Enjoy football Sunday. I'll see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern sharp. You can follow my work this week. In the meantime, on prosportsrundown.com. Someone just said former TV and radio sportscaster here. Follow me on Twitter. Let's talk on Periscope. Find my work on prosportsrundown.com, Twitter at Coach MCCARTAN, YouTube search Coach space McCartan, SoundCloud.com/Coach McCartan, and on demand, iTunes podcast. Got a lot of editing to do today. On demand, iTunes podcast, Coach McCartan. TuneIn Radio, type in 60-minute overtime. Play.google.com. You're going to search Coach McCartan with no space. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining me.